We have a third line day. We're still in gate 46, of course, and the third line is called projection. The third line is adaptive. It's part of the lower trigram. So the first, second, and third lines, they have the capacity to be in their experience. But what happens to them when they meet the other side is that it can destabilize them, or not, but it can have that effect on them. In this line, which is called projection, we have the exaltation, which says a practical approach to good fortune that maintains the same patterns and attitudes that brought success and does not get sidetracked by indulging in further expectations. The determination to stay with what brings success. This is very difficult for the third line. It gets into something and then the bond gets broken and it has to jump out. It learns that the most important thing is that once you find a way to get into something, that you really be in it. That's always going to be the best way, because it learns very quickly that there are so many distractions and so many people that they actually just can't function with. Now think about what happens here. Their third line, so they know that they have to be in their experience, and then they meet somebody, and that person tries to pull them out of their experience. And the moment they meet them, they say, oh, what are you doing? Can we do this? Do you have some time? And the third line person then, who tends to be in their experience, they're deeply involved in something, they don't want to be tapped on the shoulder. They don't want someone saying, excuse me, I've got a problem. They're just trying to be in their experience and getting on with it. 46.3 has to stay with whatever its thing is. It's very practical for them. In other words, they meet the force on the other side, but they have to try to get back to being in their experience, because that is the only thing that will bring them success, not what pulls them away from that. 46.3 may end up annoying a lot of people who try to break into their experience while they're there. In the detriment, a tendency through projection to treat a potential future as the present, leading to unjustified egoism and a loss of momentum and support. The determination to treat a projected success as a reality. These people, when they enter into something, they are entering into that to be in the right place at the right time. And then somebody distracts them and pulls them out of that. And that's when the problems come. And then they try again. And they eventually discover that there are certain kinds of people who will allow them to manifest or generate. They allow them to get out of this, however. But what happens in that moment is that they recognize that they start to have an expectation around those people. It becomes a case of, if I meet the right person, then I'm going to be able to do this or that or whatever. And this is a natural byproduct of their learning curve at all, because getting into that thing is just the time they need to break that bond and jump. They keep on banging into the wrong person. When they find the right way to enter in, they can become addicted to that. And of course, they can't stay with it because it's third line, and the bonds will get broken anyway. And the next time they say, oh, but the next time if I go with this person, it's going to work, it's going to be fine. Then automatically, of course, it will not. Because the moment you have an expectation is the moment that you're going to miss the whole point. It's never about what you think it's about at the time. It's only about what you reflect on after you've experienced it. And you don't know what the hell it is until it's over. This is lower trigram. And so, it's that collective potential, and its social potential is very limited. The first, second, and third lines really do not grasp that there is something else. They don't grasp that the key is commitment that is in the 29th gate. What are you committing yourself to be in the right place at the right time? Who do you commit yourself to be in the right place at the right time? The whole thing about projecting into the future is that at the moment that you see that you have an experience, you realize that you need to stay with the experience. And it's not about the reward that you get, but about what you get done when you get finished. For example, you start the morning saying, I'm going to build this XYZ, whatever it is, because that's your pattern, because you want to be able to fulfill that. You want to be in the experience of doing that. You can be the kind of person that says to somebody, this is going to be ready for you tomorrow. Well, that's not very existential. And it's also not what this circuit of abstract sensing is about. The fact is that the third line does not know whether or not they will be left undisturbed, because the moment somebody comes into their aura, it breaks that moment of experience, interrupts the flow. They may not get back into that successful experience of it. They may end up being somebody who sounds like they're always making promises but isn't able to keep them. The detriment may sound negative, but it isn't really. There are those 46 threes who, out of that experience, they learn to find people in their lives who do not disturb them that way, because this is an inherently social channel. They realize that when they meet 29s and they have to make a commitment, it's not the commitment that's important, it's the people that are important, because all of this has to do with the social context. The fact of the matter is that in the third line, we have the strongest learning process. This is our trial and error process after all, and it will take them time to live that process out. The grounding to the line of projection is the 25-3 called sensibility. This line says the recognition that innocent action does not in itself guarantee success. It might be supporting the 46 by reminding it that even though it is immersed in the experience, even though it is in the experience because it is correct for it to be there, this doesn't mean it's going to be a great experience, because that's not the point. And who is the judge of what is good and what is not? Mercury goes into gate 6 today, the gate of conflict and friction in the solar plexus. Will the papers and the newspapers, will they be filled with these themes? Mind you, they usually are, even without gate 6 in the transit. So how would we know the difference? The moon is still in gate 8 since 0209, the gate of contribution, with its need to contribute something unique to the collective, potentially changing their direction. And the moon then moves into gate 20 at 11:36. This is the individual throat gate of contemplation, the gate of the now. This is an existential gate, so it's very fitting for today with the Earth in the 25-2. Existential, and not the Earth with, sorry, with the Sun being in the 46, which is that very existential nature. Now, it's not concerned with the past or the future, but with contemplating and being absorbed and awake in the now. As with all individual gates, there are themes of mutation, of deafness and stubbornness, empowerment and melancholy, and also not. Yeah. The moon then moves into gate 16 at 21:11. This is the throat gate of enthusiasm, the gate of skills. This is a logical gate in the understanding collective circuit. It's the great art of enriching life through the harmonic channeling of energy. There can be a need to be strongly identified with a chosen skill in order to undertake the process of constant repetition that leads to mastery. Through this process, skill can become art, and the dancer becomes the dance. And lastly, for today, we have gate 35 at 6:52 tomorrow morning. Another throat gate. This is the mirror to gate 16. So it's in the abstract sensing collective circuit, and it's called progress. This is the gate of change. We learn here that progress cannot exist in a vacuum and is dependent on interaction. The energy of this gate is always ready to engage in a new experience without thinking of the consequences. It has a deep curiosity and a desire for change. that is driven by the need to experience a depth of feeling. It's in the stream of feeling that comes up from the root, going up through the solar plexus and up here to gate 35 into the throat. That's us for today. Thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you for the fourth line tomorrow. Thank you, and go gently.